So I think we're live.
Oh, we are?
I think we're going live.
Okay.
Are you excited about this?
Yeah.
Okay, I think so. I love this movie.
It's a good one.
I'm a huge fan. We'll see what people have to say about this one.
Yeah. It's award-winning, so...
It was nominated for Best Picture.
Yes, it was.
I think it's... And Tom Cruise, Best Actor.
Yes.
Cuba Gooding Jr. won.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and your sommelier of cinema. And I'm here, sitting with my compatriot, my companion. And who are you?
I am Elizabeth Gwendolyn Bell. I am the ace, the arbiter of cinematic excellence, and the enchantress of entertainment.
The enchantress of entertainment.
Indeed.
And this is, of course, what?
This is Elizabeth's whining about movies.
Episode 39.
I can't believe it.
Can you believe we've done 39 of these?
No. 39.
And people are still watching.
Yeah, they are.
And we haven't killed each other.
No, but close.
That's not true. That's not true. And tonight, I don't know what we're drinking.
We are drinking a wine that Claude and Candida sent us
Claude
last
and
week.
Candida sent us last week, and this is a Boggle. It's a Petite Syrah. Boggle Petite Syrah. That means it's probably a hearty bottle of wine.
Yep.
Syrahs can be quite velvety.
Yes, they can.
Should we try some?
Let's.
How exciting. There
Nice
you
pour,
go.
babe.
You like that pour?
Yeah.
Is that a good pour?
Nice.
Well, here is to Cameron Crowe's 1996 Jerry Maguire, coming on the heels of his 1992 film that's near and dear to my heart, Singles, which comes on the heels of Say Anything.
Oh, Say Anything.
So it continues his
I
pop.
don't think I've seen Singles.
What? Yeah, you have. Come on.
I have?
Well, first of all, let's that smells good. That's good.
Ooh.
That's very tasty. So, you haven't seen Singles.
What's it about?
It's about Seattle, relationships in Seattle, grunge rock. Eddie Vedder's even in it.
I don't think I've seen that.
Matt Dillon, his band, Citizen Dick, their famous song "Touch Me, I'm Dick." You don't know that? Bridget Fonda.
Did he sing that while holding up a bag of dicks?
No, he did not sing that while holding up a bag of dicks. I don't think they go. They might talk about dicks. I don't think they go to dicks in Singles.
Too
They
bad.
should. Of course, Cameron Crowe began his career as a reporter for Rolling Stone magazine. He detailed that story, sort of his youth, in the movie Almost Famous, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, which is the movie he made after this. And then famously, he went undercover in a high school and wrote the book Fast Times at Ridgemont High,
Okay.
that the movie was based on, and then he followed it up by writing the screenplay for The Wildlife, which is a pseudo-sequel to Fast Times, sort of. And then he made, let's see, I think, what did he make after that? I think it was Say Anything was his first feature that he directed. So this was the third in a succession of comedy, drama, romantic, pop culture-esque examinations of all of his predilections, and he had based this story on a famous sports agent.
Uh-huh.
So, what is this movie about?
Well, this is a romantic movie.
Okay.
It was chosen for Romantic Friday.
It was chosen for, and I was trying to tell Mike Bodden, I don't think Mike Bodden has seen this movie.
Really?
I don't think he has, but he was poo-pooing this movie today to me. And I said to Mike, Mike, this is not just some...
He hadn't even seen it.
I know.
How could he poo-poo a movie he
Because he
hasn't
said that
seen?
Renee Zellweger is she just screams romantic comedy, and like, I'm like,
Yeah,
this movie
was the ultimate romantic comedy.
But it's also a drama. It's not just... the story is not just about their romance. It has so much more to say. It talks about sports as the great American pastime. It talks about the purity of sports being corrupted by commercialism. Is this all that we want? Is there nothing more?
That's not the main thrust of this movie, though. This is a romantic comedy.
I think it's more than that, though. I think this movie is much deeper and bigger, and it has a lot more on its mind than just the relationship between two people, but it is about personal fulfillment.
Yeah, and a lot of romantic comedies are about that.
Well, okay, so tell us what this movie's about.
Okay, so Tom Cruise is a sports agent, and he works for this big company, which he helped build up.
SMI, Sports Management International.
Yes.
He plays Jerry Maguire, who is a man who helped build the company.
Right.
One of the best sports agents in the business.
Right. And he has a lot of athletes that he's working with. And then there's, at the beginning, there's a scene where he is in a hospital room and his client has had a fourth concussion, and he's trying to help him remember who he is so he can continue playing. His family is there, the wife and his young son. And his young son keeps looking at Jerry Maguire like, what the fuck, dude?
Can't you do something, Mr. Maguire?
Yeah. So, as Jerry Maguire is leaving, the kid, what does he say to him? He says...
Well, it's his fourth concussion. He said, "Can't you make him stop?" Can't
you make him stop? And then Jerry Maguire goes on about how his dad is like really tough, and
unstoppable,
blah, blah, blah. And the kid is like, "Fuck you." I love that.
And walks down the hall and turns around and flips Jerry Maguire off. And Jerry Maguire sort of has a crisis of conscience.
He does. He realizes that he's a dick.
Well, is he?
Well, yeah, yes, he is at that point.
I mean, he's doing his job. I mean, he's
doing his job, but he's compromising people's, well-being for the bottom line.
That is true.
Yeah, he's doing his job, but he's not caring about these people. It's all about the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah, that comes later.
It comes later, though. So what does this drive him to do? So
he ends up at a conference out of town, and he writes this manifesto.
Mission statement.
Renee calls it a memo.
A memo. And it's a mission statement telling people, saying to his company, we should have less clients and concentrate more
really
on personal service.
Them. Yeah.
Which is the antithesis of everything that big business is all about. Certainly sports agenting is all about.
Right.
I mean, but he's gripped by the passion. I mean, he
is.
And he goes to a copy mat or whatever it's called.
And he makes a ton of copies, and he hands them out, or he puts it in the mailboxes of every colleague.
Everybody who gets mail, like his entire company roster.
Yep.
Everyone gets a memo.
Mm-hmm.
And
then before anybody gets up, then he realizes, oh shit, what have I just done? So he goes down to see if people have gotten the memo. Yeah.
And it was delivered to everybody.
And pretty much everybody had it.
And there's a great moment I love in this movie. This movie is full of great moments.
Yeah.
I love when Tom Cruise gets off the elevator at his company after the memo has been delivered. And there's a moment where it's great physical comedy. But it's subtle. It's not over the top. It's
he's very physical in this.
Yeah,
in
the
this
comedy,
movie.
But the verisimilitude is high. So he kind of walks out, and then he turns around and goes back, and then he realizes he can't. He has to. It's this great little bit he does.
He's
this physical
nervous
bit
that that's it. It's over. But people cheer him, and so he thinks all is good.
All is good, and then there's this great cut.
Finally, you said it. You know, we've been waiting for someone to say it.
And of course, you've got Jay Moore as Bob Sugar, Tom Cruise's protege.
Yeah.
Who Tom Cruise has created Tom Cruise has forged the perfect shark killer sports agent.
Yeah, which confuses me. So how is that guy the boss?
Well, he's not the boss.
Yeah, because he fires him.
Well, that's because they tell him because they're friends, but it was the best way to handle it. I mean, he probably that guy's such a shark that he probably took it upon himself to fire his mentor because it's such a cutthroat competitive business. I'm going to get rid of the man who's in front of me standing in my way.
Yeah, but I don't get it. If he's not the boss, then how is he firing
Well,
him?
I'm sure the came from up high, but he probably took it. I'm going to fire my. He did it on purpose. I mean, it shows how cutthroat the business is.
I was like, how is he?
Then
he must be the boss.
It's so great because you've got all these people like Jay Moore as Bob Sugar, Donal Logue is in there, Eric Stoltz is an agent. I mean, there's so many. Jan Wenner, who is the editor-in-chief of Rolling Stone, or who plays the head of SMI because Cameron Crowe worked for him. He also is in Almost Famous. So there's this incredible, wide-reaching, this even in bit roles, these incredible cast mates.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, like Lucy Liu is one of his ex-girlfriends in this tape, and it's great. So basically, you know that his days are numbered.
And so they're behind the scenes. They're like joking, "Oh yeah, how long do you think he'll last?" And like, "Oh yeah, he'll last a week."
Yeah.
And and then the day comes where.
Well, then he's getting married. He's getting married to Kelly Preston.
Oh yeah.
Who is also
redhead.
great. She's also great. John Travolta's wife. Probably a Scientology hire. That's why. But even though she's great in the role, she's also a shark. She works in marketing and basically she's looking for the perfect life and thinks that Jerry Maguire is the perfect guy and they're going to be the perfect couple, and so they're this power couple within the sports management world and all that. And so you think that maybe, okay, he's written this manifesto, but things might smooth over, because they throw him a big bachelor party and she burns his black book, No More Girls.
Right. Yeah, and they make a video interviewing some of his ex-girlfriends, and it comes up that he has a hard time expressing his feelings.
He's not good at intimacy.
Not good.
Not good at intimacy. And it's, I mean, but all of this is done, like, you really get a sense of the culture of this sports management firm.
Yes.
And there are other things going on, like Jerry Maguire in his life, he's got two problems. He's got Rod Tidwell, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., who is looking to get signed by Arizona to get a long-term contract where he's going to finish out his career. And Rod Tidwell expects Jerry Maguire to get him a $10 million contract. And
his wife is the one who comes into the office and she's like...
Played by the great Regina King.
She was amazing.
Who we saw in Watchmen, the lead.
Yeah.
I mean, she is awesome. She is awesome in this movie.
Yes.
And actually, all the acting in this movie is first rate across the board. It is just full of delicious characters.
Yes.
And then you also have Jerry O'Connell is Cushman, this young guy who's like first round draft pick, and he's either going to go to Denver or San Diego, and they expect him to go number one in the draft.
He wants to go to Denver.
Number one in the draft, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's got these two big clients that he's having to sign in addition to all of his other client roster.
Right.
But so these are two big dangling, outstanding elements in Jerry's life that are going to really cement. So those are going on too.
Yes. Right.
So then we know who he is, and then Bob Sugar, who, by the way, said in this movie, which is where I got my "It ain't show friends, it's show business." Bob Sugar says that in the movie.
Yes, that's right. I was is this where you got that
it's my favorite. It ain't show friends, it's show business. I say it all the time.
Oh, but also, one thing we forgot to mention is on the flight back from this conference, he's explaining to a person that's sitting next to him, he's in first class, explaining about how he met his fiance. And in business class is Renee Zellweger, who also...
It's Coach.
Coach?
She's in
Coach. She's in Coach. She's there with her son, her young son, who is the most adorable kid actor ever.
Jonathan Lipnicki in a star-making role.
Yeah.
She plays Dorothy Boyd, and Jonathan Lipnicki is her son, Ray.
So
single mom.
Adorable. Single mom.
Her husband has died.
Yes, and she works for the same company in accounting. And she's overhearing him say this story about how he met his fiance. And she read his manifesto.
His mission statement.
memo.
And she really liked it.
She really liked it. It inspired her. But also she has a crush on him.
She has a crush on him. And then later when they have arrived, they get off the plane, she temporarily loses Ray. And Ray is on the baggage carousel.
Yeah,
and
being adorable.
Being adorable, giving everybody the high five. And Tom Cruise, she's hysterical because she can't find him. And Tom Cruise finds him.
He helps her find him.
And
yeah, and then she's able to talk to him about his memo.
Yes. And there's a connection there, but you don't think from Tom Cruise's point of view, there's no romantic thing there.
No, because everything is still good at that point.
Everything is still good. And then what happens?
Okay, so fast forward, he goes to lunch with
Bob Sugar.
With Bob Sugar, and it's a busy restaurant, and he says, "You're fired."
Straight up,
you're fired. He's like, "Oh, you picked a busy restaurant, so I wouldn't make a scene."
And Tom Cruise, it's pretty harsh. I mean, and Bob Sugar, he relishes this. He's like digging it because he's an evil fuck. Mm-hmm. And
he's loving it.
And then immediately the battle lines are drawn, so Tom Cruise is going to go back to his office.
He runs back to the office to call all his clients to see if they'll come with him.
And at the same time, Bob Sugar has been ready for this.
Yes.
And is one step ahead of Tom Cruise.
Yep.
The whole time. And it's a great montage where he's trying to call his clients and Bob Sugar's calling his clients.
Right.
And you watch his phone.
Yeah, because he's hung up on the phone with Cuba Gooding Jr., who is just going off on the phone and won't let him go to answer the other calls.
And it's a great scene where Cuba Gooding and his brother are there.
And that is when he says the famous line. I mean, this film is full of awesome cliches. They're cliches now, but they were like great lines, and everybody
There's still great lines.
They're a little cliche, but great lines. That is when he comes out with "Show me the money."
Show me, and I love black people.
I love black people.
Say it with me now, Jerry. I love black people. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
And it is, you gotta hand it to Cuba Gooding Jr. because in this scene, he's with his brother, like going through, you see him outside, then inside, then through.
Great.
It keeps, and he's
doing these dance moves.
It's hilarious. It's just hilarious.
And he's always, in this movie, he always has his shirt off, and man, is he ripped.
No, he looks good. But what I love about him is that he loves his wife. He's got this family, another baby.
They have an amazing relationship.
And they have an amazing relationship. He's shown as having this incredible love in his life, but he has a chip on his shoulder about his professional career.
Right, because he knows he only has a certain amount of years left, and he wants to make sure his family will be secure.
Yes. But what's great is everything that comes out of his mouth, he is kind of a philosopher about relationships, and everything that he says is true.
Yep.
Like he's not coming from some weird left field place, and everything he tells Jerry the whole time is it works. Yeah. So she's telling things to Jerry. I mean, it seems kind of funny, but they're things that Jerry needs to know.
Yes.
And what I love is that later Jerry's telling him. Rod Tidwell likes Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
Jerry Maguire likes Rod, and they have what's interesting is they have a real friendship.
It becomes a real deep friendship.
And I really like that. This movie is
they each help each other grow.
Yes. And this movie is very warm, and it's
it is.
I mean, even though you have the cutthroat business of the sports agents, which I love, you see this world. So, at the end, Jerry Maguire is left with two clients. He's left with Cushman.
Right.
And he's left with Rod Tidwell.
Yes.
And that's all he's got. And at the end, when he's been fired, he has to walk out of his office.
And he's like, he tells his secretary, he goes out there and he says, "So who's with me? Who's going to come with me?" And everyone's just like.
Because he thought his manifesto might get to, his mission statement, might get to somebody. Like somebody might,
right?
You know, but it's great. I mean, it's
and then
great.
He's like, "Fine, let's go." And he tells his secretary, "Okay, come on, let's go."
Yeah.
And she's like, "I'm 3 months away from a pay raise. I don't think so." And he's like, "Really?"
And he's standing there. I mean, it's a humiliating moment for anybody.
Up one of the fish. He's like, "Fine, I'm going to take a fish."
I'm taking the fish. And he's like, isn't there anybody? And who decides at the last moment, who steps up for him?
Dolores.
Dorothy Boyd.
Dolores.
No, it's Dorothy.
I knew it was one of those old-fashioned names.
Renee Zellweger decides, Dorothy Boyd decides, I'll go with you.
Dorothy stands up and she's like, I'll go with you. This single mom who needs this paycheck. That was pretty ballsy, but she had a huge crush on him.
But she also really believed in what he had to say.
She really did.
She believed in what he had to say, even though he no longer believes what he said. You know, he doesn't believe it anymore, and he knows. And then, so Jerry Maguire goes home to Kelly Preston's character. I forget what her name is. I have to look. Avery Bishop.
Yeah, Avery.
Avery
Isn't that
Bishop.
A perfect name?
Yeah. And of course, he's like, I don't know how we're going to spin this. And she's like, oh, consider it spun. Like, she's all in warrior mode. I'm going to fix all this.
Right.
And then, clearly, they realize that it's not going to work.
Well, yeah, she goes off on him, like, when he loses the main kid.
Well, yeah, so what happens is, yeah.
Then she totally loses it, and...
Well, Cushman, Beau Bridges, in an uncredited role who plays Cushman's father, Jerry Maguire goes out to see him and says, hey, we're together on this, right? And he goes, my word, or I don't sign contracts, Jerry, but my word is like oak.
Like oak.
Like oak.
What does that mean? Like oak.
Old
I don't
and strong.
like oaky wine, so I'd be like, fuck your oak. I mean, you know.
Well, and then they kind of so it hasn't happened. So what ends up happening is that Jerry and now Dorothy are starting a new company, and they've got 2 clients. They still have 2 clients. Right. At least Jerry Maguire thinks so. And they go to this big NFL, this big event. Yes. It's like a conference, and ESPN is there, right. and he's got Rod Tidwell and he's got Cushman. Even though Tidwell knows that he's in second place, right. That Jerry really needs to get Cushman signed by either San Diego or Denver.
Yeah, so they walk through the lobby, and it's, you know, he's shaking hands and meeting all these people, and then Tidwell's like, well, what about me? And he's just standing there.
Well, and so then Jerry goes up and discovers that there's been subterfuge going on.
Well, in the meantime, though, they go up to their room, and then he introduces Tidwell to everyone, and that's when the shit goes down. While he's doing that, and he's trying to promote
Rod Tidwell, and Bob Sugar moves in.
He moves in.
Sugar moves in and steals Cushman.
Steals him. And it's interesting how he finds out, like, he's in their room, and he's telling them, okay, so San Francisco wants you and Denver wants you, but San Francisco is going to offer you more money. San Diego's going to offer you more money, and so he's trying to talk them into that, and he's like, no, we want Denver, and they're trying to play it off, and then the phone rings, and the kid's like, oh, it's just more reporters, and Jerry's like, well, you should answer and just say, he tells him to say something, whatever. And
he answers pretending he's Cushman.
He answers pretending he's him, and he finds out that it's Sugar calling to
confirm everything.
That he had signed him with Denver like they wanted, and Jerry is just like...
Jerry got hosed. Sugar, like the final defeat, so Jerry is left with one client, Rod Tidwell, and Tidwell's already a little bit on the outs with Jerry because he cared more about Cushman. So,
sort of.
So Jerry's left, though, with Rod Tidwell, his only client. He's got Dorothy Boyd, who's now a single mother, needs the health care, they need money. Right. Tom Cruise is, like, basically defeated, but instead of getting some help from Avery, his girlfriend, they get in a huge fight.
Yeah, She decks him, actually.
She decks him at this event. She's also at the event, marketing, and they break up. And she's like, nobody breaks up with me.
He breaks up with her. Like, she's, like, bashing on him and talking shit to him, and he's just like, this is over. And she's like, what? And she keeps going on, and he's like, no, this is over. We're over. We're done. And she's like, nobody breaks up with me.
And then, kabam.
And then she smashes him in the face with her huge diamond ring. And he's pretty messed up.
And so what I love about this is now Tom Cruise he does still have Tidwell, but he's at the lowest point. Like, he's lost everything. He's still got Tidwell that he's hanging on to because they're friends, but he doesn't even know if he's going to be able to get Tidwell because Tidwell has this chip on his shoulder. He showboats. He's not a real team player. He's not a leader.
He's a great player, but he has this chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, and he doesn't step up and lead. Even though he's a great father and a great family man, he's not inspiring. He doesn't inspire the fans.
He
and he
complains in the locker room, and he's just like,
So Jerry has to basically, like all great character studies, has to rebuild his life.
Yes.
And so the one thing he has is he's got Renee Zellweger's character. He's got Dorothy Boyd, who's in love with him because he's very good to Ray the kid. They have a great relationship together.
He bonds with Ray. It's so adorable.
And so their relationship starts to develop, and even you really see a man at his lowest start to sort of climb out, but he's grabbing at straws. He's taking everything. So he's not like, it's not it's because he's doing things to save himself. He's looking for life preservers.
He is. And so at one point, he has to do Tidwell has to do a commercial, and it's this lame commercial for, I don't even know. It's like a car dealership, and it's really lame. He has to get on a camel. He's wearing this stupid outfit, and they're both like, fuck this shit, and they leave. And at that point, Dorothy's like, well, I do have a job offer in San Diego. And she's like, I'm going to have to take it. And so she does. She takes the job, and she packs up a moving van, and she's about to leave, and Jerry is like, sad that she's going to leave. And
I can't lose you.
He asks her to marry him right on the spot.
And she accepts.
She accepts.
And what's great is, the one thing we haven't mentioned is that Bonnie Hunt plays Dorothy's older sister.
I love the sister.
And Bonnie Hunt is this deeply cynical.
Yes.
She has a divorced women's group that's like the Greek chorus.
I love her.
And they're always angry, and they're talking about how men are not good and why don't they love us? And it's the women they cast as the divorced women's group are all great.
it's
I mean, these perfect. And you kind of understand, and so Bonnie Hunt's totally cynical about this relationship, and she's like, you're making every mistake in the book with this guy.
Yeah.
She's been through guys like this, and she's like, don't fall in love with him, don't fall in love with him, don't fall in love with him, and so she's like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And when he proposes to her, that's like Bonnie Hunt's the realization of everything she knows is wrong with this relationship, because she knows what's up. She knows that he is...
She's not completely against it. She just wants to protect her sister.
Right. But
she's very cautious.
But she's already seen it all. She's already made these.
Has.
The idea is that she's made these mistakes.
She also wants her sister to be happy.
Yes. But it's still great. So she never totally approves.
Yeah. Of
what's going on, and they end up getting married.
They do. They get married in the backyard.
And there's another line. They talk. Rod Tidwell. They have this great. They talk about shoplifting the pootie. Like you can't, and I love this. The idea is, if you're gonna date a single mother,
single mom, she's not just dating around. A single mom doesn't just date around.
And single moms want a man in their child's life, so they're more susceptible to charms and all that. And if you rely on that, if you prey upon that, you are shoplifting the pootie.
Shoplifting the pootie.
Shoplifting the pootie.
He admits that he shoplifted
the pootie. He did, for his own gain, his own emotional gain. But for the first time in his life, Jerry Maguire has to confront real against those impulses, and he won't allow himself to quite,
because he's closed off. He does not know how to deal with intimacy. He doesn't open up.
And so while Jerry Maguire and Rod's relationship starts to fray because the deal hasn't come in yet.
Right.
But their relationship starts to get deeper. I mean, it almost...
Yes.
And
because he's spending so much time, like he flies around to all his games because he's trying to avoid being intimate with his wife. So,
yeah, he's like, I don't want to go home.
Yeah, he's just
where are we going now?
He's with Rod all the time.
Yeah, he's like, whatever I can do to leave, and there's because they haven't landed.
He's like, what are you doing here? Why aren't you with your wife?
Right, and then but their relationship, their honesty to one another. You know, Rod Tidwell's got his number, but then finally Jerry Maguire breaks down, and he's like, "Why don't you help me help you?"
Yes,
you know,
another famous
there's more
cliche line.
Like, and Jerry Maguire's like, you have a chip on your shoulder, and it's almost like what's interesting is Jerry Maguire can't deal with Tidwell's honesty, so he tries to throw back honesty himself.
Yeah,
like, and they're both right.
Right, and they help each other. They learn from each other.
They learn from each other, and they have this great. What ends up happening is Rod learns, and Tom Cruise, Renee Zellweger says to Tom. I mean, Dorothy says, "This was too fast. It's not working. I know you don't love me."
Right.
And even though we got married too quickly and all this.
Yeah.
I understand, and we can part friends.
Yeah, and she doesn't want to live like that.
No, she doesn't want to live like that.
She doesn't want to live like that, and she's like, I think you should take a long break.
Mm-hmm. Which frees up Tom Cruise to go and hopefully finally sign this $10 million deal, which would be big for him. He'd be back, and there's this great sequence where Rod Tidwell is playing this very important game.
Yes.
It's I think it's Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Are playing against the Arizona, their team, and it's this great moment where Tidwell, he's playing really well, but he's getting creamed in this game,
yes.
Just creamed, and then finally he makes this spectacular touchdown catch.
Right, and then he's tackled, and
you think he's out. Is he injured? Like he's knocked out?
Yeah, he's out. He's not conscious.
And you don't know if he's broken his back. You don't know, and they string it out. It's this great moment where Jerry Maguire and then the family.
And then his wife is on the phone with Jerry, and she's like, do something. Yeah. I can't lose him.
It's a great, the way it's done is really, really great.
Yeah.
And then finally, Tidwell wakes up, and it's almost like by being knocked out, everything finally sunk in. and there's this just great, I mean, in terms of movie triumphant moments.
Yeah, because before that, Jerry Maguire tells him, you're not playing the game. Your head is just in the money. That's all you're concerned about. And that shows, like, your heart is not in it. Why did you start playing football? Like, you need to connect with that.
Yes.
And so that's what he does in this game.
And then when he wakes up, he puts on a show for the fans. Yeah. For his teammates, and it's almost like he's been anointed by God to become the court jester or the comedian or all the love of football that he ever had.
It's his personality comes out.
And it's everything that Jerry Maguire was talking about in his original mission statement. Rod Tidwell at this moment is manifesting.
Right.
And the whole idea of what Jerry Maguire put forward and how do you deal with your clients, the very thing that he wrote about has now, so he's not wrong. It manifests throughout the movie in his and Tidwell's relationship, and then when Tidwell gets up and does this dance in the end zone and jumps up in the bleachers and all that, and everyone loves him, and it's this triumphant moment, and Glenn Fry from the Eagles is the manager of the team, and because he did acting, and Jerry Maguire knows that okay. Now I'll give you your deal.
Right.
And it's a great moment. And then Tom Cruise realizes at this moment that he does love Dorothy, and she should have been there. And this.
Well, yeah, because he sees now Rod on the phone with his wife, and they are just, they're like best friends, and they love each other so much. And I think Jerry is like, he realizes what he's missing out on. He needs to open up and
he realizes he has it too. He just hasn't allowed it to sink in and
he's too closed off. He needs to let it in.
And then he makes a you know what we forgot?
What?
We forgot a big thing in the movie.
Oh.
when Dorothy Boyd, earlier on in the movie, when Dorothy Boyd and Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire were in an elevator, they see a couple, and
yes.
the man is
Right.
deaf, and the man is signing to his girlfriend, and she explains that she can read sign language,
Yeah.
and she says, he said, "You complete me,"
Right.
which
Right.
is another
fantastic line that has become a cliche, but it's still a fantastic line.
So, at the end, Tom Cruise at the end of this game rushes home and to see Dorothy, and the divorced women's group is meeting, and Bonnie Hunt is there, the sister's there, and now Renee Zellweger is part of the group, part of the divorced women's group.
Right, and she's bending down to pick up some trash, and he comes in the door, and
comes
he's like,
to the door.
"Where is my wife?
Where's my wife?"
And she stands up and
he
says
gives this
hello.
big speech, like he explains
and he's going on and on,
and everything he's learned,
on, and then finally he says to her, "You complete me."
You complete me.
And she says another great line, which has also become a cliche, but it's such a good line. She's like, "You had me at hello."
You had me at hello. I mean, and and then there's sort of this. There's a little bit of an ending where you see Ray and her in the park.
Yes.
And Ray apparently has a great arm. He throws a baseball, and they kind of all three of them walk off into the sunset together.
Yes.
And
they live happily ever after.
So, Elizabeth, what did you think of this? Now, had you seen this movie before?
Yes.
Okay, you had.
Yes.
Now, watching it again, what did you think of it?
I love this film. It's a good film. It's a good film.
A good film?
I mean, watching it again so many years later.
24 years later.
Yeah, and the lines have been used so much over and over and over again. It feels very, it feels a little...
Well, you can't judge a film based on the fact that its lines have become part of the lexicon of pop culture.
I know.
Well, I would say that works for a movie.
No. When lines become a cliche, it's like they're overused. They lose their meaning.
But that's not the movie's fault.
People jokingly say those things now instead of it having that deep meaning that it did.
But that shouldn't diminish the power of the film itself. They came from this movie.
I know.
This movie owns those lines. You can't look back at this movie and go, just because...
it was great back in the 90s when you watched this film. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. But now watching it again, I was like, oh, I've heard that line so many times.
But that's not the fault of the movie.
I know.
You can't blame the movie because its lines were too good. That's not fair.
Yeah, but it does. It affects my viewing of it.
So are you telling me this movie is diminished in your eyes because it's so good and it had such an impact on pop culture that you're going to take points away from it?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, because a lot of films are modeled after it, and it's kind of become like a formula.
Are you one of those people that says just because The Simpsons do a parody of something that original thing isn't good anymore? Like
no, I'm
Planet
not talking about
Apes?
parodies. I don't care about parodies.
But you're saying the same thing, that now that because the lines are like everybody knows, Soylent Green is a cookbook, it's a point. People.
Well,
To Serve Man's a cookbook. Soylent Green's people.
Unfortunately, I live in the world and I hear these lines constantly, and their effect has diminished. It's like, you completely. How many times have you heard somebody say that?
A lot, but in the context of the movie, that shouldn't diminish the. I think you're being unfair.
I loved this film. I loved it when it came out. I loved it. I mean, come on, we all did.
I still
That's
love
why
this
those
movie.
lines have become so overused. Because it was so good.
All right, well, what about the rest of the movie?
I mean, it feels a little dated, unfortunately.
Well, it is a product of the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Dated.
Yeah.
Why do you think it feels dated? Like, we watched Kind Hearts and Coronets, made in the 40s.
Okay, but
we watched Double Indemnity.
I did not live in the 40s. I was not. So to me, that's a fresh new movie to me. I lived through this. I was there when it came out. I saw it when it came out. And then everyone started using those lines. and overusing them, and it just kind of, you know, those lines don't have the same effect
Okay,
anymore.
they don't have the same effect. All right. All right.
And when it first came out, I was like, oh, you completely, oh my God, that is the best line in the world.
But isn't it still the best line?
No, because people overuse it.
But that doesn't take away from the initial power of the line itself.
Yeah, it does, actually.
How does, how?
It does. And it's funny because
People have been quoting the United States Constitution for over 200
that
years.
line-
We, the people. That doesn't diminish the Constitution.
No, that's different. That's different. Yeah, like the line, as you wish hasn't been overused as much as you complete me.
The Declaration of Independence. Different than the Constitution.
What? Oh.
Never mind. So anyway.
We've had wine.
We've had wine. So, okay, all right, well, what about the performances? I mean, the performances, the acting in this movie is impeccable. It's such a fun movie to watch, isn't it?
It is fun, but now, like, I thought those performances were so amazing, and now they feel a little over the top.
Wow.
I know, I'm so sad because I chose this movie.
Over the top? How are they over the top? The
I
acting,
don't know.
The acting, I mean, Cuba Gooding Jr. won an Academy Award for this performance.
know.
Tom Cruise was nominated.
I think Tom Cruise's performance was a little over the top.
Wow.
Yeah. With all his, like, gestures and his, like, falling and his all... Yeah, it was a bit much. I mean, I get it for Rod Tidwell to be... That's his personality.
Man, I don't know what to say.
I don't know. I watched it again and I was like, oh, I loved this film, but I don't know how I feel
still
about it
love
now.
this movie. All right, well, let's see what other people have to say here. We will jump into, hang on, let's see what anybody has. Somebody, help me help you, people. If you like this movie.
Help me help you.
Help me help
and
you.
Show me the money.
Timula is here. Tim is here. He says, I took a date to see this in 1996. I wasn't a big fan of it. I've watched it again, and it still doesn't do anything for me, but my date loved it, which worked wonders for my evening. I'll always appreciate it for that. And she was well out of my league.
Ooh.
Wow.
So, see, he made the right decision. You made the right decision to take her that far.
Wow, you did make the right decision. Zach Losel can't stay for the live chat, trying to be better. Post-Geek Singularity, R&B, and oh, great spicy sorceress of cinematic salaciousness.
Wow.
Salud l'chaim, and have fun. The spicy sorceress of cinematic salaciousness.
I don't think I could say that.
Well, I don't know. I think that's a little specific about, I mean, the spicy sorceress of cinematic salaciousness.
I like it.
That should go on a t-shirt.
Oh my God, yes. I would totally wear that t-shirt.
The spicy sorceress of cinematic salaciousness.
Wow, that's a good one.
Wow.
Somebody remember that.
That's pretty amazing. Rage Quit sends a super chat, and Rage Quit says, how many Blu-ray movies do you own, Rob?
A lot.
I don't have, I know people have a lot more than I do. I think that, honestly, between DVDs I still have of things and Blu-rays and 4K discs, I have about 3,000.
But how many repeats do you have? Like,
Okay,
how many actual movies do you have?
Come on, man. I would say I've got about, like...
A lot less than that.
No, I don't
you
have...
like 4 copies of stuff, 2 copies,
I don't
3
have...
copies.
No, there's like 6 or 7 movies I have multiple copies of.
Only 6 or 7?
Yeah.
Only 6 or 7?
Yeah, man, come on. It's not like I buy multiple copies of every movie that comes out.
Pretty much.
That's not true. Not true. Not true. So, yes, Rage, I think I've got about... Well, you asked Blu-rays. I probably have about 2,500 Blu-rays. Because I've converted a lot of...
probably like 2,000 titles.
No, I've got about 3,000 titles. Because you haven't seen all the DVDs and stuff that are in here.
No, I mean within your Blu-rays that are not repeats.
I do not have 500 doubles. I do not. That is not true. Not true. Just Plain Steve asks, has Elizabeth ever seen The Crow?
I have. I have seen The
And
Crow.
we did Alex
have.
Proyas' follow-up to The Crow, Dark City, as an Elizaviews.
Yes, we did.
We did. It's very hot in here, so I'm
It is.
wiping my brow here.
Should have turned the AC
I know,
on.
we should have turned the AC on. I apologize for that.
Your glasses are steaming
I know, my
over.
glasses are steaming up. Wow, the Richard sent us a super chat. Liz, these phrases are overused because they came from great films like this. They
Yes.
started here, then pop culture absorbed them. You are not upset at them in the film, but in the repetitive cultural sense.
Yes.
I don't know. That's my point. The Richard backed me
No,
up.
but it's true. It is upsetting that these words, these beautiful words, poetry, have been overused to the point where they have lost their meaning.
But they haven't lost their meaning with it. You can't take it away from the movie.
Yeah, but the movie is dated. It feels very 90s.
How is it dated?
Come on, man.
I need to know. You got to say. I want to know. I want to know where. Tell me why it's dated.
Because we've used those words so much. It's like, ugh. Okay.
Yeah, but within the context of the movie, within that context. I mean,
come on, man. Tom Cruise is young. Renee Zellweger is young without all that weird.
she doesn't have weird. She still looks great. She has that.
She does look great, but she doesn't look the same.
Yeah, because she's 25 years older.
Yeah, and she did shit to her face.
No, she didn't. That was a misnomer. People said.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I love her. I think she's amazing.
And yeah, I mean, this movie is look. It is definitely a product of its time. I love this movie. I've always loved this movie. I think it's impeccably made. I love the writing in it. I don't look at it. Maybe it's because I'm arguing with you because I think I'm able to disassociate myself from the pop culture penetration of these terms. I think it works great in the context of this movie because you know what? When Rod Tidwell says that "show me the money" scene is so well done. His performance,
so
him,
so
and
good.
you know what else is great? The relationship that Rod has with his brother. His brother, you know, you're militant, but I love you.
Yes.
I love. Yeah, I love.
He has a great relationship with his entire family.
What I love about the great movies, the really great movies, every character, all the peripheral characters, even if they have one or two lines, you get who they are.
Yes.
Nobody in this movie, and the great thing about Cameron Crowe's films is when he's firing on all cylinders, I mean, every character you feel.
It's
like
true.
Like every character even the guy at the Xerox counter, you know, and he's great too.
That's
you know?
true. That's true.
And so
I like that.
Every yeah.
Ooh.
You can't take don't take a phone call during the show. It's yeah, I that's why I love this movie. To me is it's such a full, enriching meal of a movie.
It is. I mean, it was.
It still is.
I still like it. I don't love it.
Wow.
I loved it.
Wow.
But I don't know if I love it as much.
Hey, look who's here. Victory Unlimited Show is here. Victory Unlimited Show. Hello, Victory Unlimited Show. How are you?
Hello.
Jerry Maguire is a great movie. Tom Hanks was originally going to play the role, but he rejected the earlier versions of the script.
Wow.
Can you imagine him in the role? No.
No. This
I can't.
Is totally Tom
No,
Cruise.
because what's so great about it is if you're not a movie star playing a sports agent,
yeah.
I mean, it's like being an agent in a close to a.
Tom Cruise is so sporty.
Yeah, he's so good in the role, so slick, and his Tom Cruise smile and the whole. I mean, the mega star wattage he brings to this role.
Totally. I love Tom Hanks, but I don't think this would have been the role for him.
No,
it would have been a very different movie.
Yes, it would have. Yes, and I think it would have been
because
acted.
Tom Hanks is a nice guy, right?
Right.
And Jerry Maguire's a nice-ish guy.
But he's also Jerry Maguire's a former shark.
He's a shark.
He built SMI, so
exactly
he was what he
right.
You know, he's fallen from grace in his own mind. So he was very, very shark-like. Let's see, we should probably. I have a little bit more than you. Why don't you kill that bottle?
Oh.
That's all that's left. That's all that's left. So I mean, I agree with Victory because I think Jerry Maguire is a great movie. I didn't know Tom Hanks originally.
I didn't even know that either.
I don't think, it's interesting because when you're trying to make a film, when you even when you're a director like Cameron Crowe, you still have to have the studio wants a star, and Tom Hanks is a big star. I don't think in any way, shape, or form in any universe would Tom Hanks have worked in the role the way Tom Cruise did.
Yeah.
Because unless Tom Hanks was really, I just don't believe that Tom Hanks's persona would have allowed him. I would have believed that the when Tom Cruise writes the manifesto, it meant something. Like you believe, whereas if Tom Hanks wrote the mission statement, that's the guy he was always supposed to be from the beginning.
Right.
That's
exactly. Yep.
And that's kind of how.
No, Tom Cruise was definitely the right choice for that role.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that it's true. I do.
Do you have a Tom Cruise figure?
I do.
Where is it?
He's packed. I can't get to it.
What?
I know.
Oh man, what about Renee?
I do not have a Renee Zellweger figure.
Damn it.
There aren't really any good Tom Cruise figures, but that have come out officially. Like I have a Last Samurai figure, but it's bootleg, so it doesn't have the kind of great facial sculpt.
Oh, it doesn't really look like him.
Yeah, they haven't, because if you think about it, like an Ethan Hunt figure, it's just like, okay, that's Tom Cruise. He doesn't have like accessories. I mean, it's like you look at Brienne of Tarth. I mean, look at those clothes. You know that's Brienne of Tarth.
Her face. I mean, that's totally her face.
Oh yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I want to free the toys. Hashtag free the toys.
No.
From the boxes.
No.
Free the toys.
Mm-mm. We're not freeing the toys.
We are freeing the toys.
No, we're not. We're no freeing the toys.
Well, you want to keep them in the boxes?
Unless I can set them up. Like, you already destroyed yesterday. There was a toypocalypse.
I did not.
There was a toypocalypse. I mean, my God, the amount of toys that you destroyed could have.
I did not. Why are you blaming me? It was your shelf.
You moved a glass shelf of Hot Toys, and one of the shelves fell.
Your shelf fell, and you knew that shelf was precarious. You did not deal with it for months.
Okay, but it was almost a toypocalypse.
I needed to move it, and the shelf fell, and then you blame me? I love those toys. I want to free them.
Well, you almost killed them. There was a lot of death there. There was Catwoman, Bane.
Nobody got hurt.
People did get hurt.
Okay, no. What's his face? Lost his glasses. That's it.
Morgan Freeman. Lucius Fox. Great bootleg figure of Lucius Fox.
We will find his glasses, okay?
I know where his
He's
glasses
fine.
I know where his glasses are.
You know?
Yeah, it's fine.
So, see?
Still, Morgan Freeman.
It's not my fault. If you had fixed the shelf when you saw that it was precarious, then that never would have happened.
Well, you should have asked me and said, hey, I don't want to move this because you have the precarious shelf.
They are in my studio, and I needed to move it.
Oh, my God.
But I want to free the toys. And today, I shot a sequence with Thor and the other dude. And
you didn't move them. They're not meant to be moved a lot.
No, I didn't move them a lot. I just turned their heads. And then I put them back. For my movies. For my stop motion movies.
Okay. Rage Quit sends in a super chat and says, who is your favorite superhero and villain and why? In movies or in comics? Because if you talk comics, well, hang on. As people know, I'm a huge Moon Knight fan. Now, Moon Knight might be one of them. This is Moon Knight 30, the last Bill Sienkiewicz drawn Moon Knight. So Moon Knight's one of my favorite superheroes. Moon Knight has gone through various incarnations. I still prefer his first incarnation. Now he's crazy, but before he wasn't. But in terms of movie superheroes, I mean, it's hard. That's a hard question to answer because I've got thousands and thousands of comic books. I mean, in terms of movies, superheroes, I mean, I love Batman on film, but I think in the movies, I have to say I love Steve Rogers. I love Captain America. I love the way he's portrayed in the MCU. And I think as far as movie villains go, I love Thanos because he has a philosophy. And misguided as it might be, I thought as a cinematic villain, I really loved him a lot. Doc Savage sends in a super chat and says, would you consider covering the first Guy Ritchie movies or, please God, any Neil Green movies? Ooh. Yeah, that would be an early Guy Ritchie would be a good movie to do, like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. That would be good. I think it'd be fun to do. Have you seen that?
No.
I think you'd like an early Guy Ritchie movie. I mean, I'm a big fan of Guy Ritchie movies. I like with John Campion. I saw The Gentleman before. I think The Gentleman was the most wildly entertaining movie I saw this year. So I am a fan of Guy Ritchie. Just Plain Steve says, revisiting older movies doesn't always work out well. Just like when I rewatched The Last Starfighter after 20 years, it wasn't good. I still have fond memories of it, but it definitely lost its luster. Yeah, I mean, I think that can happen. Yeah. I mean, The Last Starfighter also is hampered by its computer-generated effects. And the story, even then, even when it came out, it was very familiar. You know, the poor kid, and yet gets touched by he has to take on Zur and the Kodan Armada. But even then, it was an amalgamation of things. And going back and watching it, there's very well-trodden ground there. So there even wasn't enough unique about it in the first place, even though I like Last Starfighter a lot. Yes, hang on. I understand what you said, Doc. I knew you meant Neil Breen. I'm sorry. I should have read that. But I think Just Plain Steve, you're right. You're right about that. Rage Quit sends in another chat and says, do you agree with John that movies are subjective?
Oh boy, here we go.
No. I do not believe that movies or art are entirely subjective. People's opinions are all subjective, but their opinions don't necessarily correspond to whether a movie or art itself is good. I really believe that there is an objectivity to the great movies. That's why so many people, if you look at the AFI list of 100 greatest movies, so many people, so many critics agree that certain movies are the best movies ever made because there is an inherent greatness to them. Now, the problem is, how do you quantify that? And that would mean if you know, it takes people's levels of education are different, levels of interest are different, but that doesn't mean that the movie itself is better or worse. That just means that, look, there are people like, I was prejudicial against Westerns. I didn't like Westerns very much because when I was growing up, I liked...
That's a shame.
I like science fiction, fantasy, and horror films. So as a result, I just didn't watch Westerns. And then when I started watching Westerns, I mean, I remember seeing The Searchers for the first time. It was a revelation to me. Then I started going back and watching older Westerns, and I really got into Westerns. And by the time I finally saw Unforgiven, and I went and saw Unforgiven opening day, and I'm like, I was with my friend Wayne Mogilevsky. We saw it at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. When I saw Unforgiven, I knew all the Western tropes by then and what had been deconstructed and what it all meant. And I was like, this movie is going to win Best Picture. I knew that. And I loved Westerns. Now, did that make Westerns good or bad? No, it made my opinion of Westerns was not good because I wasn't educated enough about Westerns. But that doesn't mean they weren't good movies. And so I think that what John is not incorrect, but what he's talking about is for the individual. If an individual likes a movie or doesn't like a movie, that's up to the individual. But that doesn't make the movie itself good or bad. Your opinion of a movie does not necessarily have any bearing on whether that movie is in fact a great movie. There can be greatness in a film, you just might not see it. Because it's like I certainly didn't with the Western genre because I never paid attention to it enough. So I don't believe in what John says. I don't subscribe to that. So I hope that answers your question. Cal from Swack Props is here. Speaking of movie superheroes, what did you think of The Shadow with Alec Baldwin? It was a bit kooky, but I liked it. Also loved the score. I think The Shadow, I mean, we're talking about Russell Mulcahy of Highlander fame, directed The Shadow. I think it is kooky and it's a lot of fun. And look, the Shadow again is an anachronistic character. Comes from radio shows in the 40s. I think it started but it began even before that. So I think the Shadow's a lot of fun. I like the character of Lamont Cranston, and I think that movie is good. And it's interesting because it came out in an era where they did a lot of pulp characters, like period characters, the Shadow, the Rocketeer, and Indiana Jones. I would throw in as part of that pulp, even though he's not based on something else. He was an original character. I like the Shadow a lot. I like the Shadow. The Richard sends in a super chat and says, we have 100 plus watch parties on the Post-Geek Singularity Facebook archives. On the Post-Geek Singularity, click watch party and you'll be able to watch all we have done and interact. The Richard has been throwing some great watch parties on the Post-Geek Singularity Facebook page. There is a WINEning About Movies Facebook page where you can go to.
Yes.
And it's great.
Yeah,
it's
lots
great.
of movies, lots of music videos, that kind of stuff.
Crazy stuff. So, Elizabeth, we're at the end of our time here.
We are.
And we have our scale, the bottoms-up scale.
Yes.
Which is, what is our bottoms-up scale?
Our bottoms-up scale is from 1 to 4 because there are 4 glasses of wine in a bottle.
4 full glasses of wine in a bottle.
Yep.
So let me ask you, on a scale of 1 to 4, how do you feel about Jerry Maguire?
I think I will give Jerry Maguire 3 glasses of wine.
3?
I almost gave it 3.5.
Wow, okay, 3 glasses of wine. I understand. I get it. I give Jerry Maguire 3.5 glasses of wine.
Okay.
So cheers to that.
Cheers.
Not a bad score for Jerry Maguire.
Bad score.
I don't feel it's as dated as you do. It still works for me every time.
I'm sad that all the great lines have become so cliche. They're really great lines.
They are really great lines.
But people have used and abused them.
I don't know what to say. Well, I don't know what our new movie is going to be for Wednesday night. We will announce it tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll figure out what that is. This brings us to the end of episode 39 of Elizabeth's WINEning About Movies. Now, what do we say at the end of the episodes?
Every person you meet has a story to tell that you yet have to hear. And all you have to do is listen.
All you have to do is listen. Timbula the Spider Monkey sends in a super chat and says, Miller's Crossing. I love Miller's Crossing. Miller's Crossing is a favorite of mine. It's one of the Coen brothers' greatest and yet most unsung movies.
But I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's so good.
Is that our next movie?
Maybe. You know what? Why not?
Do you have it?
I do.
Multiple copies?
No, I only have one. Our next movie, in honor of Timbula the Spider Monkey, Tim, Miller's Crossing. The Coen brothers' Miller's Crossing is our next movie.
Awesome.
That's what we're going to do. That's our next movie. Miller's Crossing. All right, then.
All right.
So I want to thank the Richard for moderating. I want to thank Mike Bodden. I want to thank Haynock, our new moderator. I want to thank Greg Smith, everybody that makes the channel what it is. I want to thank all of you for your generous support and participation and all of that. Thank you very much. And it's been great to have you here. And it's been great to have the ongoing audience. Can't believe we've done 39 shows.
39
it's
shows.
Amazing. And with that, I would say,
have a better night.
Have a better night. And here ends Elizabeth's WINEning About Movies, episode number 39. Jerry Maguire.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. Oh, the Richard says, tonight's watch party is all about war films, Platoon and Full Metal Jacket and more. And Miller's Crossing now. Thanks for being here, everyone. See you on Wednesday.
Good night.
Well, that show could have been disastrous, but it rallied.